The night was calm, still, and eerily quiet in the small industrial town of Rockwell, Pennsylvania, a place where the factory whistle was as predictable as the sunrise. But on that night, there was no sound, no alarms, no sirens, not even a call for help. And yet, by morning, 37 people were dead, victims of an explosion that destroyed an entire wing of the Rockwell Chemical Plant and blanketed the town in toxic smoke. What made this disaster unlike any other wasn't just the scale of the destruction. It was the silence that surrounded it. No one pulled the alarm. No one called it in. The system that should have saved lives never even turned on. And when investigators arrived, they found something even more disturbing. The alarm system had been manually disabled just minutes before the explosion. In tonight's investigation, we are uncovering the mystery behind one of America's most chilling industrial tragedies, a disaster that never should have happened. You'll learn why the factory's safety system failed, who was inside the control room moments before the blast, and how a single missing key changed the course of the investigation. By the end of this story, one question will linger. Was this truly an accident, or a perfect crime disguised as one? For decades, the Rockwell Chemical Plant was the beating heart of the town. It employed half the population and ran 24 hours a day, producing industrial solvents and adhesives used worldwide. Safety was everything. Every worker knew the protocol. Any irregularity, any gas leak, any temperature spike triggered a level 1 alarm, instantly alerting emergency responders. But on the night of June 14th, 2003, something broke the chain. The plant's night supervisor, a man named Darren Cole, clocked in at 11:46 p.m. He was well-liked, dependable, and had worked there for 12 years. Security footage showed him entering the control room at 11:51 p.m. At 12:03, the explosion happened. The footage ended at 12:02, exactly 1 minute before disaster struck. The last thing recorded was Darren sitting in front of the alarm console and turning a key. When firefighters arrived, it was chaos. The entire west wing of the plant was a sea of twisted metal and smoke. Toxic fumes forced rescuers to wear sealed suits, making recovery slow and dangerous. By dawn, 37 bodies were pulled from the wreckage. Among them, Darren Cole. He was found near the control room door. His ID badge melted into the floor. The initial assumption? He died trying to trigger the alarm. But the state fire marshal noticed something strange. The main alarm panel had been shut down manually. A small brass key was missing from its slot. Someone had physically turned the system off. Investigators combed through maintenance logs and found that, 5 days earlier, a safety inspection had failed. The plant's alarm system was flagged for irregular readings, yet production continued. The company's executives insisted the problem was fixed the same day. But when investigators interviewed employees, a different story emerged. One worker recalled Darren arguing with plant director Alan Vickers just hours before the incident. According to her, Darren shouted, "If you ignore one more warning, it'll be on your head." Vickers denied the argument, but phone records showed a 16-minute call between them at 10:42 p.m. the night of the explosion, just over an hour before it happened. When questioned, Vickers said he couldn't recall what they discussed. The missing alarm key became the focus of the investigation. Only 3 people had access to it: Darren Cole, the night supervisor, Alan Vickers, the director, and Linda Carver, head of safety compliance. Linda was out of town that night, attending a training seminar in Harrisburg. Her hotel check-in was time-stamped at 9:07 p.m. That left 2 people who could have turned off the system. But when investigators tested Darren's gloves and uniform, they found no residue of the key's brass alloy, suggesting he never touched it. Alan Vickers, however, refused to submit his clothing for forensic analysis, claiming his attorney advised against it. Still, the company blamed Darren for negligence. His widow received a minimal payout. The case was quietly closed within 6 months, but the residents of Rockwell never believed it. In 2011, 8 years later, a small package arrived at the office of local journalist Samantha Pike. Inside was a mini cassette tape labeled Midnight Control Room, June 14th. The recording lasted only 90 seconds, but what it contained reopened the entire case. Static, a faint hum, and then Darren's voice. System override, manual disable. Alan, why are we shutting it off? The sensors are still red. A pause. You can't hide this forever. Then, the sound of a door opening, a loud clang, and silence. The explosion occurred seconds later. The tape had been recorded through the plant's internal communications line, which was never included in the company's release data. Someone had deleted it, but a copy survived. The tape reignited the investigation. Federal agents raided the company's storage facilities and discovered internal memos that revealed a hidden truth. The plant's management had bypassed several gas leak detectors to meet production quotas. Emails between Vickers and senior engineers showed he was aware of the risks, but signed off on continued operation. The alarm system, which would have immediately shut down production, was turned off deliberately to avoid costly delays. When confronted, Vickers claimed the decision was temporary. He retired 3 months before being indicted for gross negligence and manslaughter. But before trial began, he disappeared. His car was found abandoned near Lake Arrow, 50 miles from Rockwell. Inside were his glasses, wallet, and a single brass key. After Vickers vanished, FBI analysts uncovered something even more chilling. In the 6 months before the Rockwell explosion, 2 other chemical plants owned by the same parent company had reported minor alarm malfunctions during overnight shifts. In both cases, anonymous technicians filed internal complaints and were fired within weeks. The timing and technical signatures matched the Rockwell shutdown. It wasn't just one road manager. It was a pattern, and Darren Cole had found out too much. In 2020, almost 17 years after the disaster, a radio documentary aired detailing the Rockwell tragedy. During the live broadcast, Samantha Pike, the journalist who first received the anonymous tape, received a call. The voice on the other end said, "You think it ended that night? Look under the old tower." 2 days later, construction workers clearing the abandoned plant found a sealed service tunnel beneath the control room. Inside were 3 empty gas canisters and a burnt ID badge belonging to Alan Vickers. The body was never found, but pinned to the tunnel wall was a metal tag from the alarm key, engraved with the words, "No alarm, no escape." To this day, no one knows exactly who sent that tape, who buried the evidence, or who really orchestrated the disaster at midnight. The company quietly rebranded. The site remains fenced off and sealed. But locals still say that on certain nights, around 12:03 a.m., they can hear a faint ringing sound echoing from the ruins of the plant. Maybe it's just the wind, or maybe finally the alarm is sounding. Thought balloon, so tell me, was this truly an industrial accident? Or did someone ensure the silence that night was no accident at all?